I'd like to call the City of Apache Junction City Council meeting, May 2nd, 2023, to order. And if we would take a moment, please put your phones on silence, which includes myself. The invocation tonight will be led by Councilman Heck and the Pledge Allegiance by Councilman Cross.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege of being able to gather together this evening to discuss city business. We ask that you give staff and council wisdom and clarity in its decision-making. We ask your blessing and care upon the men and women who serve in our military across the globe. We also ask for your blessing on our first responders, including our police, fire departments, and our EMS personnel. We are grateful for their service and ask that you keep them safe. Thank you for the honor and privilege we have to serve the residents of this great city. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Wilson,
Here.
Councilmember Cross,
Here.
Councilmember Heck,
Here.
Councilmember Johnson,
Here.
Councilmember Nesser,
Present.
Councilmember Soller.
Here.
You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. Consent agenda. As a reminder, all items under consent agenda will be approved with one motion. If a council member wishes to remove an item for further discussion, the request must be made prior to the consent agenda and be moved to new business. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that the consent agenda be accepted and approved as presented.
I second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Nesser,
Yes.
Councilmember Heck,
Yes.
Councilmember Soller,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cross,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Motion passes, Your Honor.
All right, I have recognition of donations, funds, and 3 proclamations. So donation funds for the golf tournament proceeds, Liz. Uh-oh.
Big check.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Liz Lingenbach, Parks and Recreation Director. It is my honor tonight to share with you some really amazing news. And to do that, I would like to ask a couple of really special people to join me up here. So if I can get John Gonzalez and Tiffany Wilkinson to come up. I am joined by these 2 individuals that wanted to give back to our youth sports programs. And so they looked for ways that they can contribute to make sure that our cost to participate in youth sports was something that was affordable for everybody. And so they came up with the idea of doing a golf tournament a few years ago, and this year marked the 3rd annual breakfast ball golf tournament that they hosted. These 2 individuals volunteer their time as well as corral all of their friends and family members to also reach out to sponsors, to make breakfast burritos the day of the event, to do all kinds of fun things to make this a great tournament, and then talk a whole bunch of people into coming out and playing golf. And this year, we are really, really fortunate because they have a really awesome donation to present to us, but this will be the 3rd year of them giving to our youth sports programs, and we're really excited to share with you, and I'll let them kind of hold and present this. And we'll have a photo here in a minute. But $4,000 to our Youth Sports League. That money is going to go, first of all, to this summer's Youth Basketball League. Instead of our program being $45 or $50 for participants to play in our league, they'll be able to play this year for $15 or $20 for the whole summer league program, which is an amazing amount of money that makes it very affordable for so many people in our community. And then whatever leftover funds from Youth Basketball League will move over into our next sports leagues to help to offset those costs later on. And this was a contribution to the Friends of Apache Junction, and unfortunately they weren't able to join us tonight, but what we'd like to do is have Gary Gartner, our youth sports coordinator, and the mayor, if you would come down and have a photo with these fine people, and if we could just give them a big round of applause, we're so impressed.
Very nice.
That's a lot.
Fantastic.
Wow. Run.
Okay, the proclamation, first one. Councilman Johnson will be reading for the Food Bank Day.
Thank you, Your Honor. Superstition Community Food Bank Day, July 8th, 2023. Whereas we realize the human needs that must be met to maintain the dignity of all people and recognize that it is a responsibility of our more fortunate citizens to help provide the services to meet those needs. And whereas a wholesome community, attractive to its residents, business, and industry, is only possible when the valued elements of charity and public service are maintained. And whereas private agencies served by dedicated volunteers can meet the needs of people in a way that government cannot always serve. And whereas since 1983, the Superstition Community Food Bank has continuously worked with the community to address hunger-related insecurities, and with the assistance of many volunteers, has served hundreds of thousands during their 40 years of service by distributing millions of pounds of food. And whereas the Superstition Community Food Bank needs assistance from all of us in order to continue efforts in feeding the hungry, now therefore, on behalf Chip Wilson, Mayor of the City of Apache Junction, does hereby proclaim July 8th, 2023 as Superstition Community Food Bank Day. And we have some people from the food bank with us tonight. Eric Ariola, our Executive Director, Lynn Hansen, Board President, Gary Cluffcorn, Vice President, Pat Palomini, if I said that right, Secretary to the Board, and Sharon Allison Brown, one of our illustrious board members.
Maybe
Push 'em
scoot
back
back
a
a
little
little,
bit.
get a little more room.
Into a little bit more room and lighting.
That's the good light, too. All right.
Mayor Wilson, council members, and staff, Apache Junction staff, we would like to thank you on behalf of the Superstition Community Food Bank, our board of directors, myself, Eric Ariola, the executive director, for honoring us with this proclamation. From the beginning in 1983, it was a City of Apache Junction staff member that recognized the need growing in our community to help those that were facing food insecurities. From the beginning, the great City of Apache Junction has helped us to sustain over the years through support, not only financially, but through encouraging its citizens to participate through donating and supporting the food bank. We thank you for honoring us for the 40 years that we've been in the community. We look forward to continuing our legacy and helping those in the community that continue to face food insecurities. And once again, we'd just like to thank you for this honor.
Thank you for your service as well. Okay, Peace Officer Memorial Week. Councilman Schroeder will be doing that.
Solar.
Solar. Not my shoulder.
Proclamation. Police Officers Memorial Week, May 14th through May 20th, 2023. Whereas police officers of the Apache Junction work devotedly and selflessly on behalf of the people of this city and nation, regardless of the perils or hazards to themselves, and whereas these police officers have safeguarded the lives and property of Americans in this great state of Arizona, and whereas by the enforcement of our laws, these same police officers have given our city and county, or country, internal freedom from fear of the violence and civil disorder, and whereas these men and women, by their patriotic service and their dedicated efforts, have earned the gratitude of the City of Apache Junction, the County of Pinal, and the State of Arizona. And now, therefore, on behalf of Walter Chip Wilson, Mayor of the City of Apache Junction, Arizona, do hereby proclaim May 14th through May 20th, 2023 as National Public Safety Peace Officers Memorial Week. I also proclaim May 15th, 2023 Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of the federal, state, and municipal officers who have been killed or disabled in the line of duty. Signed and attested to this 4th day of April 2023.
Mayor, members of council, and everyone here, thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of the Apache Junction Police Department. Mike Pooley, Chief of Police. Every year when this time of year comes up, it's something that in law enforcement we think of daily, actually. You know, there's over 800,000 police officers in the United States. Last year, 245 of them were killed in the line of duty. We don't know when or if it'll ever happen here or in a neighboring agency, but we know it will happen where an officer lays their life out on the line. Right now, there's a police officer somewhere here in Apache Junction or Mesa, Tempe, Chandler that's doing a vehicle stop. They don't know who's in that vehicle. They don't know who they're going to face or what they're going to face. And sometimes it's a fight for their life, and sometimes it does cost their life. This week that we remember those that have fallen, I think of this quote that was said about a young man doesn't miss the days that he doesn't know, but it's those that are living that miss those days. And it is in respect to the families of and friends of the fallen officers that have lost their lives in the line of duty. And for that, I really appreciate Mayor, members of council, for the recognition of this week that is recognized throughout the entire country. Ever since I've been here in Apache Junction, I come here to City Council every Tuesday when we have it, and you pray for our officers. Those prayers are felt, and I know that they work and they do protect our officers. So thank you very much to the community and to each and every one of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, proclamation for Provider Appreciation Day. Child Care Aware of America and other organizations nationwide are recognized child care providers on this day. And child care providers, or provide, excuse me, a safe nutrition place and enrichment development for millions of children nationwide and is a vital force to our economy. And whereas the pandemic brought to light the importance of child care providers for well-being and economic security of Arizona's young children, families, and communities. And whereas child care programs, which are mostly small businesses, are still recovering from health, and financial hardship stemming from the pandemic while they continue to meet the needs of families, and whereas our future depends on the quality of early childhood experiences provided to young children today, support a highly qualified child care represents a worthy commitment to our children's future. Now therefore I, Chip Wilson, Mayor of the City of Apache Junction, do hereby proclaim May 12th, 2023 as Provider Appreciation Day. And we didn't have someone here, well, we do.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. It is.
left side, right side?
That's awesome.
Kiddos.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mayor and council and staff and everyone here in attendance. I'm not sure what your experiences with childcare are in the state or in the community, or if you yourself have ever had the luxury of trying to find someone that you can trust to care for your children so that you can work or go to school or participate in other professional development opportunities. But it is very challenging for families in this community and across the state to locate somebody that they can have complete peace of mind that in their absence, their child is going to be loved and cared for and nurtured. And the professionals, or the men and women who are doing these jobs, typically do them for little to minimal amount of money, and are trying to support their own families while also trying to care for their other children can be extremely challenging. So I just really appreciate you taking the time to recognize the critical importance of child care and high quality early care and education in your city and in your county and across the state. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Intergovernmental updates. Anyone have anything?
I don't know.
Well, I guess I do as well. First off, I attended the Gilbert State of the Town, mind you, State of the Town, not State of the City, in their revamped town hall facilities. And it was interesting to see the growth that Gilbert has been experiencing, and they're moving forward. And it was very informative as to what's going on in the community of the town of Gilbert. Gilbert is the largest town in the nation, which is something to achieve, I guess. The next thing that I did with the city clerk was attended the Maricopa County elections facilities, and they offered some tours of their building to show the progress and security of the ballots and the voting equipment that that goes through. It was quite a detailed process, and the security measures, the chain of custody, all the steps that the process must go through in order to be able to be properly counted. There is over 100 cameras, and one of the things they told me, or told us, that if you step wrong, we'll see it, because there's over 100 cameras over the entire area. They sent me a card thanking me for attending, and at first I thought it was a notice I stepped wrong somewhere in the building. They have two-person access to the ballot tabulation room at all times. There's an air gap computer network situation for the tabulation equipment. In other words, the All the computers are not tied to any, I'll say, outside capabilities to prevent anyone from coming in on them. That's what they call it, the air gap. The secured servicer that they use in the tabulation room is in, and I thought this was unique, that's a glass locked up room where anyone can see what's going on inside, so you can't get in there and hide. And it is only 4 people have access it during the time that they're doing the logging of the ballots. Security of the tabulation machine is extensive. They go through a federal certification, they go through a state certification, then they're tested for the accuracy and the logic accuracies as well. There's always a party from each political party that's present during the time. And for the ballots that have been issued to go through the tabulation equipment that have problems, they are moved over to the ADJOURNMENT area where they are looked at to find out what caused the problem. And it's anywhere from smudges on the paper to a wrinkle or whatever that caused the problem, so that they are separately looked at and then run through to count the ballots. It was an hour presentation, a tour, and if anyone is curious of what's going through the Maricopa side, so you can see what's going on, I do encourage you to contact the Maricopa County Recorder's Office to schedule a tour. They are well receiving of people to tour to see what they have and how they secure your ballots. Okay, and City Manager's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. Bryant Powell, City Manager, and tonight I'm excited to do a couple things before we turn it over to our YAC. We have our Youth Advisory Council here with us during this time frame. Al, do you have the next photo ready? All right, so here we have a very special night and annual event where we gather as a community, and in this case, this is a photo of several of you who were able to make the Lost Dutchman Marathon's awards night and award dinner. We're so grateful to the mayor and council, the city's support to this wonderful signature event in our community. This year, the proceeds or the net ability to provide back to the community was $60,000. They came to, they only support local youth serving agencies. Every single one of the groups were youth serving local agencies. Went back to review all the years that they've done. It's over $825,000. They're almost ready to hit the $1 million mark that comes back. How do they do it? Well, it takes volunteers. It takes groups of people to help serve. And in a group of dedicated board members that have been doing it for many, many years help make it happen. So I just wanted to thank every one of them that help make this event so special in our community each year. And congratulate Liz and your team and everyone involved tonight. Also, we're pleased to announce that we've filled 2 vacant positions, one from Anna McCrae and Jenny Hoffman, with 2 new management analysts. And first we'll introduce to the community Robert Whistler. Robert is right here with us and is a new management analyst. Comes to us from the city of Wilcox. He graduated a couple years ago from the University of Arizona, and he's been here for about a week or so. And now we have Eli Richardson, who is 2 days on the job. And they're brand new, just jumping right in, helping out the office here and filling in those spots. Would love to have you get to know them. They're going to be helping support in the same functions that we've had support through the many years. And that's my portion of the report. Would like to invite JJ to come up and introduce our Youth Advisory Council. And I know JJ looked great in a tie. Looks good.
All right, good evening, Mayor and City Council. J.J. Underwood, Recreation Coordinator for Parks and Recreation. First, I just want to thank you guys again for your continued support. 6 years ago, you guys tasked us to start our Youth Advisory Council, and we've hit the ground running ever since. And so just want to, again, thank you guys so much for your support. I have with me Esme Garcia. She's our president, and she just wants to introduce our video real quick so we can show you guys kind of a little bit of what we did this year.
First, I'd like to thank and recognize all the support given to YAC from everyone here, and we're very excited and honored to present our video here tonight. Our video is going to show the recap of what we've done this year. Thank you.
Yeah. Hope it's not too loud.
Hi, my name is Esme. I'm the president of Youth Advisory Council, and here's a look back of our year review.
The Christmas event, I liked seeing all the kids, and I think it was nice to have the hot chocolate for them.
Oh, but we did the trunk or treat, and we like decorated our van with like minions. It was really cute. We've made our own event, teen night, which makes me really happy that we get to help spread out the word about violence and abuse. We have accomplished our first huge event just ran by YAC. It was a violence prevention event, and I'm really proud of us because we did it ourselves. And this was the first event just ran by YAC. Like when I first started on YAC, I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, I don't know anybody. Like, I only know my friends. I don't know what we're doing. But like, as I started like, I kept on going to the meetings, doing all these things. Like, I really got involved with everybody. And it's like nice now. It's like, oh, I want to go. It's not like, I have to go. The challenge I overcame the most was speaking. I have trouble speaking. It's very hard to speak. But I got to talk with a lot of people, and I don't feel very judged. Like, I feel like people understand me, and I can speak without being judged.
All right, so that was just a quick kind of recap of what we did this year. As you can see, we did a bunch of events, and me and my staff are super proud of everything that these guys did this year. We had a little bit smaller group than normal, but as you can see, we did a ton of stuff this year, and we're excited to continue next year. So, thank you guys.
Awesome. I want to say personally, thank you as well. Thank you for being involved, and thank you for being part of this Youth Advisory Council, which I'm excited it continues on.
And we have all rest of our members and everything here, so if you guys don't mind, we'd like to get a quick picture with anybody that wants to be in it.
Yeah. I would say the council come down with them, right?
Yeah.
Stand in front with them?
There's plenty of room right here, yeah.
Does that sound good?
Yep. So JJ, how about
Big group. Maybe they should have stayed up there.
that'll give you more room. It's for the gram.
All right, very nice.
Yep, I got it.
Hey, JJ, before you go, how many years is this now with the Youth Advisory Council?
6.
6 years, so 6 years now, Mayor. And I'll turn it over to Al for current events.
Okay.
Well, how can I follow that up? All those young'uns. Great stuff. Al Bravo, Public Information Officer for the City of Apache Junction. Good evening to you, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. A couple of quick things just to pass along now. For those of you who have not heard yet this wonderful podcast that our City Manager and Economic Development Director, Pat Ainsworth, took part in, this is a podcast that is done by a CEO of a company, a general contractor, and they do interviews with folks in the development business, in the economic development areas, and they talked to Mr. Ainsworth and Mr. Powell for a really cool session talking all about the positive things about Apache Junction and the future of Apache Junction in many ways. And it's a really neat little overview of what's going on in the city and what we can expect. If you go to the city homepage at apachejunction.az.gov, you can find the link to the podcast. It's a really neat way to show off the city, so we're really excited about that. A couple of things coming up that you all should be aware of. Free Dump Week next week, as always, Monday through Saturday at the landfill over there south of Baseline, off of Goldfield. Make sure that you have your truck full of trash ready to go next week. It is the beginning of May. That means it's also the beginning of Shop Local time in Apache Junction. The Chamber of Commerce always has a Shop Local program during the summer to try to help a lot of our businesses who, of course, see a little bit of a slowdown in summertime, obviously. And so this is a chance for everybody to kind of help out a little bit more by getting some really cool discounts. So if you go over to the Chamber, you can get a $2 card that you can trade in for a number of different 10, 15, and 20% discounts at local businesses throughout the city. We should tell you a couple of good updates for things that you, if you're looking for information about things going on in the city. Our brand new digital specialist in our office, who's just started with us in the last few weeks, Jorge Gutierrez, has beefed up our calendar. So if you go again to the homepage at apachejunction.az.gov and scroll down to the bottom, you will see our calendar. It lists all of our very, very interesting events from parks and libraries and things that are going on. You can see them there now. And we are really, really starting to boost our presence in social media as well as on online and on the web as well, now with our new folks on board. And of course, remember, you can always get an update on things in our newsletter, so go to the homepage/newsletter to sign up. Those are your announcements for May the 2nd, 2023.
Thank you. Okay, excuse me. We have no public hearings this evening, no old business, new business. Presentation and discussion regarding broadband plan for the city. Doug?
Your Honor, as Doug's getting ready to go, I just wanted to say we had been asked by you to talk a little bit about this in a prior council meeting. Say, hey, we'd love the little update on what's going on in the community with broadband. Say, that's exciting. We've asked Doug to come tonight and give an update.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I want to talk about I'm the IT director. I'm Doug Wirthgen, and the City of Apache Junction broadband plan. So I want to give you a definition of broadband. It's the physical connection that runs from the provider to your property. And broadband plan is separated by residents, businesses, and the city. Two types of Arizona state providers. It's Arizona state law. VSP is video service provider. This is your traditional channels, local channels, national channels, providers, and other services. And I'll explain that a little bit, but this became an Arizona state law in 2018, and I'll explain that in just a minute. And then we have internet service providers that just provide you circuits and connectivity. You then have to go out and get things like Netflix, Hulu, and type of things like that to have those other additional services. Council approved ISPs are Wired, Intrepid, and also Zayo. Zayo is just for municipals and education. So a couple years ago, you had the Pinal County School Consortium. They got the library a circuit here as well. That was part of that. And then also, they're on a right-of-way license agreements. So that is Arizona state law as well. So in the last year, we've had these 3 right-of-way license agreements, and Joel's helped us with that. Thank you, Joel. And council-approved VSPs are CenturyLink, Mediacom, and Cox Cable. And this is the current broadband for residents and businesses. So I wanted to give you a picture of the availability of broadband for Apache Junction currently in the northern part. So in the green with DSL for CenturyLink, and also in the blue with Mediacom, these are older infrastructures that have been here a while. CenturyLink was actually US West, that was also Quest, CenturyLink, and now they call their internet services Lumen. So that's kind of how they work as well, and they also work with Quantum too. That's part of their portfolio of sub companies. And then Mediacom's been here a while. So as you can see, there's still about a 20 to 23% gap in residents in Arizona getting broadband services. And you'll notice the band rate on these as well is a little bit low with the DSL services and the older infrastructure. So that's our current snapshot of what we've been prior to these last 18 months. And future broadband for residents and businesses. We've had Cox Cable actually come into Apache Trail, you can see in the pink area, and they laid fiber there for the businesses. So Pat Ainsworth with Economic Development, we've been able to work with some of the businesses that have been asking for new internet services and things like that. And then also they went into 5 neighborhoods with their coax cable, their typical services that they do for Cox Cable. So at this point, they're not going to go any further, but they are working on a case-by-case scenario where we can go in and work with them to try to get them into different areas as well. And then if you see in the south, we have the developer putting in with all of these service providers, all 6, if they're qualified for Zayo, whether it be education or so forth, they're going in with a developer down south as well. And on the city side, the city actually just went into an agreement with Cox Cable, and we'll be getting services from Cox Cable at the police department for us as well. And then down south, the developer is putting in over 20 miles of conduit for the city. So we're going to have conduit laid to be able to provide services, smart city initiatives that we'll be able to do in the south. Broadband is the foundation of which the city of Apache Junction can grow from. It's the foundation in which we have to build to be able to add these services. The internet has become an essential service, similar to electricity. As a result, there is a critical need of information communication technology and public Wi-Fi. High-speed internet connections allow for economic development and growing remote work trend. It impacts public safety, resiliency, energy efficiency, healthier communities, transportation, and data analytics. And that's my presentation to you tonight. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Yes.
Your last slide kind of sums it up, and I'm wondering, why can't we get better internet service from the different providers in the older parts of our community? I'm stuck with CenturyLink, and you know how terrible that DSL speed is.
So it's lead-based copper. I could get into the weeds, but I won't.
You know, it's horrible.
Yeah. And that's what I meant by an older infrastructure.
Yeah, and you know, it seems like when a new customer comes on board, they go to the closest switch, and start moving wires around. And it took 3 months to get my internet back.
Yeah.
Because they call the technician out. Well, that's the 3-week call out. Takes 3 weeks to get them on the schedule. And then they come out and, well, we couldn't figure out the problem. So we wait another 3 weeks. It was just frustrating as all get out.
Well, I think there's a bright side. So
I hope to hear it.
Because of the expansion down south has attracted this. That's why Cox Cable came in here. And they not only came in here in February of 21, I think, Joe, is when they signed that VSP agreement, but they've actually gone into a first phase that was approved. And they have laid for our business foundation down on Apache Trail, which is huge, right?
Right.
They've also got on those neighborhoods. But the challenges for them are return on investment. So when they run into 129 mobile home parks, they're presented as private entities. So they're not counted as having 150 eligible people because of seasonal and things like that. So those are the real reasons why it's challenging for them in the north. So I have worked with one of our ISPs that is on our road licenses, and we're looking at an ACA grant. And if we can get that ACA grant, we'll get into every major and minor arterial with both their services for our residents and businesses, and also for city conduit as well. So we've been working on that for the past year, and that's what we're looking forward in the northern part. With a developer in the south, we're in really good shape there, putting in the infrastructure because it's blue sky, if you will. And that's what's working on the south. So we have had 4 of the 6 providers come in just the last year or two. And that's because they're attracted to this. So this is the first time that you see that. And it does take time to put those in. Like we're probably 3 months out from our Cox cable service being ready at the police department because they still have to get to our building and things like that.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. You have a good evening. Thank you.
Yes.
So, Doug, my understanding is with the progression in this business is the use of fiber optics for cabling versus the coaxial. Is any of this new work coming in? Is it going to be fiber optic or?
Yeah, so it is fiber optic, and coax is the foundation where you saw. Let me go back to that screen. Can you go back? Right, one more. No, the other way.
Sorry.
Oh, there you go. So you see where it's a coax, Cox cable has it, and you see down Apache Trail. That is where they're coming from Mesa over into Apache Junction. So they're extending east is what they're doing with their infrastructure, okay?
And that's fiber optic.
And that's all brand new.
Brand new, right, okay.
Yeah, and that gets more than 1 gigabit. Those are dedicated circuits for the businesses. And what that means by that, there's no throttling or anything. It's a little more expensive for businesses, but that is, you're getting the best throughput you can get with that. And then the coax is founded by the fiber. So that fiber is actually producing that for the coax cables. So they can get a gig as well. So they're getting more bandwidth with these new infrastructures than they had before. On the, can you go back one slide, please? So on CenturyLink, as you can see, they only have 6% of fiber that they put into this infrastructure where there's currently. So that means there's only 6% that actually have the capability to have the broadband that we have that we just did down Apache Trail with Cox Cable. So those are what we're looking at in reality. But I definitely want to have the north keep up with the south when it comes to infrastructure. And that's what we're working with the ACA grants. Okay.
I have one question. On the CenturyLink fiber on the top left, because the maps are small, what is the roads that are on the borders of this?
So what I think they're doing on CenturyLink is creating what we call a fiber optic ring. So that's why there's not a lot of population where they're at, where they're going around the city. And that's what they're trying to do with their fiber. Their sub-company is called Quantum Fiber, and they're working off of our VSP license agreement, and they're putting them around. So what they're doing is they're setting them up for success by coming to the outer edge, and then once they get services, because they have to get a service first for them to go into different areas, just like Cox Cable had to. They had to have enough people reach out to them and say, we want service, for them to be able to do that. That's why we're working with the economic director to be able to do that.
And Councilmember Johnson, I know it's hard to read, but these are kind of this is McKellips Road at the top, the upper limits.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
That's
yeah.
Lost Dutchman Road. This would be Goldfield Road.
So the outer edge of the city is what they
Then
do,
the
and they try to
60s, yeah.
create this ring around, so when they're ready to bring it in, they'll never have an outage.
Okay.
It goes right up Idaho, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the 60
Exciting
would be right
stuff,
here, and this
isn't
would
it?
be southern baseline.
Where are you at?
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Presentation discussion regarding overview of annexation process. Mr. Stern.
Mayor and members of the council. I'm going to let Rudy kick it off, but this comes about because at the retreat there was a request to talk about annexations with some of the other county islands that we have in the city limits. So Rudy's got about 30 slides, I think. Is that right, Rudy?
No.
And I have none. I'll balance it out, but I'll talk after Rudy does.
Thank you, Joel. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Rudy Esquivias. I'm the Development Services Director. I have a short presentation, Mr. Mayor. First of all, this is our current city limits. Interesting factoid, the original city incorporation area was between Lost Dutchman, Southern, Meridian, and Goldfield. 12 square miles, basically right in here. The rest of this, over the years, over the series of around 20 or so annexations, we have expanded our city limits. Right now, I believe we're at about 42 square miles, started at 12 square miles. These darker areas that you see here in the middle are the county islands. Now, I'm not calling these areas out here county islands because they're actually open to unincorporated county jurisdiction, but as far as the actual islands within our city limits, these are them right there. This is a little better close-up of the county islands. Once again, they're basically located between Southern and Guadalupe and between Meridian and Goldfield. That's where the actual county islands exist. And here we zoom in a little more, and I've numbered these in blocks, and I did a lot count. As of the last GIS data, these blocks, there's about 549 properties, and that's assuming that there haven't been a couple of recent lot splits or lot combos. But basically, we're looking at about 550 lots. The most dense neighborhoods would be Palm Springs South, which is the area just west of Tomahawk, south of Southern. There is 199 lots in there, I believe. And then the other dense area is Desert Sun Condos with 192 condominium units. The city, once again, was incorporated, the original 12 square miles. Much of our annexed area does consist of vacant state trust land and BLM land, which we have requested to annex in pieces over the years, and we take it where we can get it. And normally, for the most part, we have avoided private properties because it's a whole different set of circumstances you have to satisfy if you're trying to annex private property. Therefore, most of our private property annexations have been owner-initiated, and I'll go back and show you some of those. Some annexation requests that we have petitioned for over the years were denied or put off by the state. They didn't feel we were ready, or the infrastructure wasn't out to some of the areas that we wanted to annex. It just timing wasn't right, politics wasn't right, whichever way you want to look at it. But not all of our state land requests have been successful. And we also did try, on a couple of occasions at least, back in the 90s, to annex a couple of areas. We thought we had the support, and then we come to find out we did not have the support. And some of that was due to, folks getting nervous, and they start rumoring, and, you know, the city's going to tax you, the city's going to make you hook up to sewer even though your septic tank works just fine, the city's going to come back and assess development fees. Those types of rumors got started, and in particular, I'm talking about the Desert Sun Condos attempt and also the Palm Springs South attempt. And unfortunately, those annexations did not go through. So if we go back to our previous images, why did we end up with these islands? Well, because these are areas of private property. There's a few mobile home parks right in here, just west of Ironwood, and on both sides of US 60. This, of course, is a county industrial island, about 10 lots in there. This is another county industrial island. I think there's like 80 lots in there, if I'm not mistaken. And then we've got the area by Cortez and Southern, which is some 1.25 acre lots. We've already talked about Palm Springs South, and there's a mobile home park right in here. We have Mrs. Ellie Garber's little Twin Palms RV park that we had a lot of fun with over the years. And another county industrial island right here near Baseline and Tomahawk. And then this here at US 60 and Tomahawk is actually 2 mobile home parks. So once again, we have annexed in pieces. The very first piece we got was back in 1980 when we annexed Gold Dust Mobile Home Park. That was a reach into Maricopa County, and Mesa very quickly put a strip annexation up and down Meridian, said, no more, AJ. So we have Gold Dust Mobile Home Park. We have Senior Cottages, which is actually fronts on 114th Street. We got a little apartment development called Royal Apartments. And then everything else was, like I said, over a series of 20 different annexations over the years is how we have grown. That is just a general overview, and I know Joel has some annexation law stuff he'd like to talk to you about, but I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Rudy, just going back to how is it that these areas just didn't become incorporated? Did the owners just refuse it? They say, no, we don't want that to happen?
Yes, in some cases that was the case, and in a couple of instances, for example, not too long ago, like within the last year, there was a gentleman down here who expressed interest in being annexed, but in order to annex property, it has to be contiguous to the existing city limits. It's got to be contiguous for a certain distance, and in the case of the gentleman who down here in this industrial park, he was somewhere in the middle of the park. He was not contiguous to our city limits. And like we have had conversations with some of these folks, if you can get your neighbors in between you and our city limits to annex, to also agree to annexation, we can take you that way as long as you meet the length and contiguency requirements. And sometimes, you know, other property owners are the ones that end up saying no. Another example was a gentleman who had 80 acres, I believe, out here in the Gold Canyon area. But once again, there were at least 20 other properties between that gentleman and our nearest city limit. We couldn't annex him. Another example, well, area that we've wanted to annex for a while is this area that's got 6 or 7 mobile home parks, and these property owners who own Bonita Vista actually did annex part of their property when Walgreens wanted to move in and develop the property, but thus far they have not wanted to annex their mobile home park and another vacant lot they own in this area. We had very recently a gentleman down in our newest county island. I didn't mention this one because this one is going to be a long time before we can annex, but there's a gentleman down here who lives just north of the 24, and he contacted us and said, hey, my neighbors and I would like to get annexed and rezoned to commercial, but because of the latest state law and because of other complications and because of our agreement with the state land department, this will not be a possibility for a while to come. And like I said, Desert Sun condos, we thought we had it in there because we had heard that some of their septic, you got 192 condos on septic tanks. We had heard, and some people had expressed concerns about possibly some of those tanks starting to fail. They approached the city, but they could not get a majority of owners to annex. You can't annex somebody unless they want to be annexed, or unless they are part of a larger group where the majority of the owners agree to be annexed.
And Mr. Mayor, and Councilmember Heck, to that last point Rudy made, if you looked at this map of the incorporated limits back in 78 or 79, it would look very different. There'd be a lot more county islands or larger ones, is my understanding of it. And over the years, that's gotten smaller. And in the beginning, I think it's former Mayor Doug Coleman tells the story that he remembers the incorporation votes, 5 or 6 of them, until they reduced that, got to that right number so they could incorporate by just carving out those who were opposed to it. And that's how these islands are truly formed way back in the beginning.
And the law has changed over the years too. There used to be a law that said you had to leave a 200, you couldn't completely encircle a piece of land. You had to leave a 200-foot wide out. So we've got some very peculiar annexations. If you ever want to see some annexation maps, I'd be happy to show you. And then that law changed. The law said if a city or town surrounds a piece of private property on at least 3 sides, then you can create a complete island. And that's how there are no outs here anymore, and they have truly become islands.
So this is county property, so they don't benefit from any services delivered by the city.
That's correct, and we view it not as county property, it's literally in the county, yeah. So when they call 911, they're gonna get a sheriff. It's really an interesting discussion of.
I have heard, and I can't say this is true, but there have been cases where there have been 911 calls, and our police have had to respond because the Pinal County Sheriff's, and it's not their fault, they're spread out all over the place. We've had to respond. Would I be accurate in saying that?
In police departments and fire departments, they usually have mutual aid agreements where they can operate in between each other when necessary, in the worst
just end
emergencies.
at police services or public safety. It's confusing to residents about who their mayor is.
Right.
How come I don't get to vote?
Yeah.
In the city elections? And we spend a lot of time trying to educate and help people. We spend a lot of time helping people understand Western Meridian.
Yeah.
How difficult, you have an Apache Junction address, and it's, we don't provide the service, and we don't send, we don't have code compliance, we don't have any of those different types of services out there as well.
I mean, is there an advantage to the city to annex these county islands?
So this is the next legal part. There are advantages. There's a cost, benefit, review of some of these, but we don't get to choose that.
Right.
When you said, when was the last time that this was tried with some of these high-density areas? How long ago?
Well, the two larger neighborhoods, the Desert Sun condos and Palm Springs South, I want to say that was like mid-90s.
So we're talking.
It's been a while.
We're talking like 30 years ago.
It's been a while, yes.
Well, but
I'm just
let me just
wondering.
intervene a little bit too, though. Rudy doesn't know that former Mayor Surtee had worked a little bit with some of the property owners west of the school, at the high school, on that. What's the name of that one, Rudy? That's just that one.
Oh, the Las Palmas and the La Bonita and Sierra Leone mobile home parks. There's all mobile home parks in that particular.
Yeah. Before we even went to the initial feedback was nervousness about government. Nervousness about just fees related to it. We don't have a city property tax. Nothing would change other than they would be able to have the ability to tap into our services. But it was almost like, they would need to. They have to petition us, right? They have to ask to be part of our city, and in that area in particular, they were mobile home parks with one property owner. It seemed to be one that the former Mayor Surtee thought would be easier because just 1 or 2 property owners, and it still was a tough discussion.
I just wondered how much we ever really market to those people to really talk and get out to them, because you're talking 30 years ago, there could have been 4 turnovers inside there as to what the benefits are of being an actual citizen of Apache Junction, because
And those
there's
who
a
have
lot of
asked,
things that have changed in
we
30
do our
years.
homework and we look at every possibility to try and annex them, and we have done many annexations that way. But, you know, unless someone approaches us again, or unless you want us to do some kind of study, we can certainly do that as well. You know, maybe get some fresh, do a survey or get some fresh opinion out there.
I just kind of like to see like what we call Ben Franklin pros and cons of what that is, because I'm sure you heard both sides.
Yeah.
That it'd be interesting to know what they felt was the con and what we think is the pro.
Right.
Okay, Joel?
Joel, you're up.
Okay, well, Rudy covered a lot of it, but what I provided you, Matt, if you could put up the annexation guide, I've attached.
Is it
this-
attached to the agenda?
This is from the league.
All right, let me get there.
It's 2019, so it's a little out of date, but there's one law they did not. They added the controlling laws, ARS, so Arizona Revised Statute, Section 9-471. And there was one change that almost affected our state land in a negative way. But luckily that went through and that did not affect us. So if you could, you can scroll through this, but if you could go to after page 23, and that's the annexation timelines and steps. I mean, I could read all this to you, but it's a bit complicated, and there's so many ways to mess up. Because if you mess up one of the steps, you have to redo it again, and that is not easy. So if you go to page A1, go past 23, and then it'd be the page right after 23.
Okay.
Yeah,
The page here.
Yeah, keep going. Yeah, keep
Okay.
going.
All right.
And so I think right there.
Right.
So you just passed it. Okay, there you go. So basically, you got to do a map. You got to have the correct contiguity, the size, the shape. You have to at least have 300 feet against the city. That's minimum. You have to then prepare a plan that says, how are you going to provide services for the next 10 years? That has to be prepared. Yeah, I'll skip some of these because some of these are just clerical. You got to get the county assessor to give you names and addresses and the property value. And you continue on. There's days involved here. It's not just automatic. At one point, you do what's called a blank petition. So you don't get signatures yet, but you have to have the map attached. And it's got to go to the county recorder. There's a waiting period. You have to advertise before you have before the end of the period. And by the way, the legislature loves playing with this statute quite a bit. In fact, well, let me get to it. There is a requirement that when the petition comes in, you have to have the 50% rule, 50% of the assessed valuation. You have to have at least that, and also 50% of the owners who are in your map. They want to change that to 60%. They want to make it more difficult to annex an area. And that's SB 1268. The last time I looked, it went to the Committee on the Whole. I think it passed on April 5th. So I'm not sure where that is now. I think they took a break because they, got rid of a member of the legislature. So I think they're on a break right now this week. So I don't know when it comes back. There will be a final read in both houses, and at one point they'll vote on it and it'll go to the governor, unless someone kills it. And then, of course, that could change too. They could do a new bill. And just change the number. They could always do something like that at the last second. So continuing on, there's other things you have to do. You have to have a public hearing at one point, but you have to go through a lot of postings. You have to notify the county. So once you have your public hearing, you basically have a year to get your signatures. You say, God, that's a long time. Well, no, it isn't, depending on how many parcels are involved. It may not be so easy. And to answer one of the questions that came up, Tomahawk and Southern, that area, there was an attempt, I think the former city manager was instructed to try to get that area annexed. letters went out, and this is probably, I want to say 2008. Rudy, I might be wrong on the timeline. It may have been 10, 15 years ago. And I remember Development Services was tasked with doing that. So most of the people in that area are renters. So they tried to get the ownership also. And we got very little people returning the card saying we would like to be annexed or we want more information. So people just didn't have the interest. A lot of those people who own property in that particular area are out of state. And they just collect rents. That's what they do.
For clarification, if it's in a trailer park, no, let's just say an apartment complex, do you have to have 50% of the renters? Or is it just the
No,
owner?
The owner.
It's the owner, but it's also 50% of who owns real property and the personal property. So if you're in a mobile home park, someone could own a unit, so their vote counts too, even if they don't own the underlying property. Same with utilities. You got to get the utilities to sign off also, or at least 50% of them. So at one point you have a hearing, there's a protest period, and then at one point you have your hearing, you vote. Then I think 60 days later it becomes valid, as long as no one protests it. So it's pretty long. It's doable though. We've done it 20 times, Rudy, 20 times or more. But private properties are harder. Now with state land, it's easier, except you've got to, luckily we have a wonderful city manager who knew the past Arizona State Land Department commissioner, and getting that person's signature is a requirement. And if you don't do that, you cannot annex that state land. They have to have an interest in doing it. And we've had some failed events there also, going back to when, well, probably before I started, I'm sure. But when I started, they wanted to annex part of south of 60. I think it didn't go through. And then there was ideas of these developers who brought just strange ideas, and that kind of killed it too. And then at one point, I remember we changed the general plan. I think we made it go down to Germain. And that upset the State Land Department. We had a meeting, I remember this, in the old chambers, and they weren't happy about that. And so after that, I think we didn't hear from them for 10 years. They kind of said, okay, you want to take your general plan down to Germain? That's our land, but you know what? It doesn't mean anything to us. We won't be talking to you for 10 years. We're kind of blackballed because of that, because we didn't play ball with them. You have to play ball with the State Land Department, and Mr. Powell did a wonderful job with the State Land Department with the new development. And I'll just praise him, I have to, because without his efforts, it never would have happened. It would not have happened. So, you can't give direction tonight, but you certainly can put out ideas on what you'd like to do with the islands. There was an effort to talk to Gold Canyon. The former mayor did that. And there was some miscommunication being done intentionally by some of the Gold Canyon people. And we had a very difficult meeting. And it was on a Saturday morning. I'll never forget it. The MGC was packed, and they couldn't even, I think we were at our total amount of people that could go in, and there was still another 100 people that wanted to get in. And they were not angry. They were very angry. They had signs, no annexation. They can incorporate. There's a difference. Incorporate means you create a city. Annexation is when you already have a city, and then you want to just add on property. And there is, I'll bring it up real quickly, Santan, you probably read in the paper, they would like to become a city. They've tried it before. They messed up on some of the rules before. Now they want to try it again, and the smaller map that they have is better for them, because then after they actually get a small area incorporated, then they can annex. They can annex whatever if they can get the people to support it in a petition. Now, on the financial side, Brian probably knows more than I do on this, but if Santan incorporates, we actually get affected that way financially, and it's based on the population. So it could be, I don't know, depending on how many people they want to start with the map, it could be, who knows, $500,000 to $1 million or more that will affect us directly. So that will be another thing that you have to worry about with revenues. If some entity within the county decides to do that, because that affects our pool of money.
That's a shared revenue fund.
Correct.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Well, you asked about our thoughts. I think it would be good to maybe reach out to some of these county islands or all of them and put a questionnaire out there and see if they are interested. You know, like Councilman Johnson said, is that, you know, things have changed. If it's been 30 years, ownerships change, people's attitudes change as they see the city growing. Maybe it's something that's more desirable to them now than it was 20, 30 years ago. The other area that, when I was out campaigning, there seemed to be a lot of interest, or I shouldn't say a lot, but some interest for the people north of McKellips. You know, they come down to a school to vote. What do you mean I can't vote for you? Well, I'm not on your ballot because you're not in the city. Well, I have an Apache Junction address. I realize that, but you're in the county. So it wouldn't hurt to maybe put some flyers up in that area and do a survey.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'd change that a little bit. I'm not so certain you want to just do a survey and find out what they have to say, because they're either not going to respond or tell you no. Maybe what we need is a campaign where we show them the benefits of annexing, not just asking their opinion, but
I agree.
Definitely.
we've got to sell ourselves to them.
It needs to be
exactly it.
something, you know, when I say survey, that's kind of very broad. It needs to be something that goes to those individuals and shows the benefits of being part of the community versus remaining a county island.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think a good marketing program out is where we're not asking them if they want to annex. We try to build it where they come to us to be annexed.
Well, that also adds on to these places. Rudy, how many of them are, like you say, mobile home parks where it might be 150 lots, but there's only one owner? You've got to convince that one owner, because that 50% vote is that one person. Though the other people don't have any say, they're just renters there.
Well, they do if they own their trailer.
Well, that's,
Right.
some of them do, you know, depending on what it is, but if they don't own the land and all that, you know, yeah.
But there are areas, you know, like, you know, Councilman Cross and I are out further that direction. We're out more towards borders and things. And there's a lot of homes that have developed on that, right outside of that, that they're not an island, but they have been left on their own. And maybe they need to come on into a family of the city.
Mayor, in terms of the advantages to those individuals, in terms of property tax, do you know that, I mean, being part of the county, they would pay the same county taxes that we would pay to them? Do they pay more, do you know, because they're under the city? Because they're under the county, does the county, do they apply
They do not.
So there's no tax advantage by becoming incorporated in the city?
There's actually a disadvantage on some of their fees, like we just heard from the water company. You know, when the water district is saying that they're going to be more per month, more per usage. So it's actually a disadvantage on some of those items because they cannot have them. And they cannot have our fabulous police department.
That's the big thing right there.
Yeah, the police
I
department.
can tell you right now, when they call to get a sheriff down there, it's gonna take a lot longer than it is for Apache Junction PD to show up there. And that's a big advantage right there, because the sheriffs, they have the whole county, and they could be a long way away. That's a really good selling point.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have the right to say, sorry, we can't send an officer there, you'll have to wait for a deputy sheriff. because
Well-
it's a mutual support.
I think the chief could address it. However, I think if there's going to be if there's a major incident, I think our police department's going to show up, and then if something bad really happened, they're going to turn it over to the sheriff at one point. So you can address that.
Yeah, Councilmember Heck, if there's a priority call where it's a life and death type situation, then we are going to go and respond. However, if it's a property crime and we're not going to, we'll wait for county, even a vehicle accident. Some of those we are, obviously Apache Junction has priority. Our citizens have priority here, so we're going to be sending our resources, and they will have to wait, but if it is a priority, then we would respond.
And you would not ever say, no, you're a county island and we will not respond.
If it's a non-priority call,
But I mean, if it was a priority, if it was a shooting or
Correct,
something
we're
like
gonna go.
that, you would go.
Yes.
So, see, I'm just trying to think, look at this, is it worth it for us to go through all this? Is there any real advantage? And I'm thinking that there was, but the more I'm hearing, I feel like, I'm not sure if this is just putting a whole lot of effort into nothing. So I guess from my stand, and I'm the one who kind of started this because I was excited. I thought this would be a great opportunity to annex these properties, and I'm realizing I don't know.
You got to be careful because sometimes you don't want to annex things because it adds a lot of problems.
Well,
So-
that's what we do.
Consider this, if we were to annex Gold Canyon, and that, we have no intentions, but if we were, we need another police department over there, another substation. You know, there's those, you know,
Right.
so,
Yeah.
there's
Well,
those
I was-
disadvantages in a sense.
I was with the former mayor then when he was over talking to them about it, and he was trying to reassure them that the city was not trying to annex it, but this is what this community had to do if they wanted to become. And he started getting a lot of boos and hisses and
Yeah.
yelling and screaming at him. And he says, but wait a minute now, if you decided you wanted to be annexed, we could very well say, no, we don't want to annex you because you got problems in your area, which would cost the taxpayer of our community a lot of money. And that stopped them when then we said that we would turn you down.
Yeah, we would really want to look in the cost benefit in terms of
Yeah.
the cost to serve the roads. We'd have, whole different service levels that we would present that are different than the county residents are used to, too.
As I said, I was the one that had raised this from the retreat, and my inclination at this point is to say, let's just table this thing. And I'm not looking I'm not recommending or suggesting that we do anything further at this point, so, unless somebody else disagrees vehemently, but I will just shut up.
Police, they could make arrangements with our city to supply police. They'd have to pay for it, of course. They'd have to pay for the infrastructure and the vehicles and the manpower, but you don't have to annex them to do that if they would want our police department to service their community.
Okay.
All right. No other comments? I guess we'll just kind of table it for now.
Yeah, we'll keep the dialogue going. It's not going away. It's been here the whole time, and we can talk to our residents, keep talking to them. There's certain identified areas that we tried
Well, we
before.
thank you for doing all the due diligence, because
Yeah.
we did ask about it, and it was very good information that you
Thank
brought
you.
us back.
It was very helpful, yes, it was, thank you.
Okay, I guess we just did a council to direction to staff on that issue. Call of the public. I'd like to remind everyone, the call of the public is a courtesy and not required by law. It's a time for the public to express requests, communications, comments, and suggestions. Requests to speak forms must have been completed and handed to the city clerk before the end of the city manager's report. All issues shall be presented in a professional manner without personal attacks. Under the open meeting law, council cannot engage in the discussion on issues presented, but may respond to criticism and may direct staff to follow up with the speaker directly or place the matter on a future agenda for council discussion. There's a 3-minute limit for each speaker, and we request to state your name and address for the record. And Andrew Meek.
Council, Mr. Mayor, Andre Meek, 1327 Bel Air Road here in AJ. First off, I'd like to say it's been 2 meetings now that we've had 100% participation in prayer and the pledge, and I'm really happy to see that. And the next thing I'd like to comment on is the broadband. Now, yeah, there's issues with it, but like Councilman Cross says, he was like weeks out getting repairs and everything. Did they break your bill? I hear a lot of complaints that the people are paying their bill, they're not getting a break on it and all this, and they post up on Facebook, on Nextdoor, you know, and I mean, how fair is that? You know, here we are, you know, if it's a law that we have it, you know, there should be a law that you're not paying for it if you're not getting it. But people have to, you know, and a lot of them never get serviced. You know, they never get a tech. I see that all the time. So, and also, I'd like to comment on an invasion that we are having in the desert. And no, I'm not talking about tweakers in their motorhomes. I'm talking about globe chamomile, that little plant you see everywhere in the streets and alleys and all over. And that stuff is taking over, and you know, I feel that we need to make some kind of concerted effort to control it because it is really bad. The seeds themselves and the seeds, every one of them little balls is hundreds of seeds, and it's its own pre-emergent, so it kills and doesn't allow anything to grow around it, and it's highly flammable when it's dry. And I'm seeing that, at least have some kind of PSA, tell people to cut it and throw it away. Because, like I got 2 doors down from me, I got an alley with it 1 foot high, solid. And I mean, in my backyard, I've been fighting it. And, once the desert gets it all, then it'll overtake what we have. And it's getting pretty bad. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you.
Excuse me, thank you. Excuse me. Reichwald? That is Stacy, okay.
I'm Stacy Reichwald, 45 North Cavendish in Queen Valley. I have lived here my whole entire life in the valley, and I'm actually coming to you today because I have done, I'm a part owner of Copper State Rodeo Company, and we buck bulls out of the hitching post in Apache Junction. And a couple years ago when we took over there, we started with the SJBRA, which is a nonprofit child organizations for potential for kids to come in and ride bulls, and they go nationals and everything. So I started working with the city, and I have emails here and stuff, my correspondence back and forth on how to go about doing this. And on April 20th, I got a phone call, and I had already been approved for all my events for this year, and they told me that as of May that we can no longer do them. So I'm asking the council to review the emails and I don't understand when I hear it says that we can do it, and then all of a sudden we can't do it. So I'm asking the council to review that to see if we can, in fact, continue this youth sport that we do here. And again, it's a nonprofit, and it only benefits the kids. And all night long, all we've heard about is all the great youth activities and stuff that are here, and that's all that we're trying to do.
Do you have something for them?
Yes.
We can take that. Or
Mayor, can we direct staff to look at this and see why we won't allow this and see if we can't allow it.
What the circumstances were to
We can look at it.
cancel that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we should.
We'll certainly do so and report back.
Yes, my understanding is what they do on Saturdays during the day is not bull riding, it's rough stock and mutton busting, which is not bull riding. So
Okay,
I definitely would like,
more on this.
Well,
yes, please.
We can address that in the very near future.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Ritter?
Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff members. I appreciate your time tonight. My name is Trent Ritter. I actually live in Florence. My address is 23878 East Choyo Road. I have been the president for the Southern Junior Bull Riders, I think, for 7 years now. I've been a part of the board for 8 years now. I was a rider parent at first, and then I got involved with it, saw what I was doing for the youth, because we're not only building bull riders, we're building great individuals that will eventually be in the workforce and out here, you know, working with you guys in the public and stuff like that. So, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, we teach them all of that stuff. We're building champions inside the arena as well as outside the arena. And that's our goal here, is just, I mean, just like earlier, it's all about the youth, right? That's exactly what I'm here for. I'm the voice for our youth. And as long as we could keep this going, I think it could be a great thing, you know, not only for the kids, but for society and moving forward, because they are the future, right? Our kids. And I feel like also, like, if we're doing this once a month here in Apache Junction, that's bringing patrons into your guys' town. I got like 100 kids riding. An average family has about 3 or 4, you know, people in their family. Well, that's 400 people that's in your town for that month or that day. And they're going to your ghost town. They're going to your restaurants. They're doing all these things, you know, helping your revenue for your town as well. So I think it's just great things, and if you would allow us to continue to do it, I'd really appreciate it. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to address that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Any other comments from the council? Okay. I'm going to adjourn the
Wait a minute,
meeting.
you didn't schedule future meetings.
There's no,
You-
There's nothing here.
There's no attachment.
Thank you, yeah, I'll get.
I don't think we
Oh,
there's no
okay.
attachment on it.
Let me, I'm gonna send.
No selection of, okay. Duh,
So let's adjourn.
okay.
Okay, we're-
That's all it is.